The old Mario Karts are charming, challenging games full of character and classic Mario Kart tracks. These tracks are pretty solid for a video game experience, but what if these tracks were brought into real life? So for this video, that's exactly what I want to find out. If these tracks were real, how many of them could you actually drive on in real life with like a regular car? By regular car, I mean just like a regular car you'd normally find on the road. Like say a Honda CR-V or a Ford Focus or something. So say if a track has a crazy jump like this one, it would be completely impossible for a normal car to do because, you know, they're not made to fly in the air. So for every other entry into the series, I've kept it to one game per video, but since these games have similar styles like with the whole flat vibe, I think I'll just put them together for this one whole video. Also, Super Mario Kart has a lot of tracks that I don't really have much to say about, so I couldn't really make a whole video about it by itself. Also, while the art style is charming and solid for its time, Mario Kart looks like this now, so for me it would be kind of tiring to make two separate videos that kind of look the exact same. So yeah, we're just gonna do a package deal in this video. Also, this is my first time ever playing Super Mario Kart, so the gameplay is about to be atrocious. Like, this is gonna be bad, but it's alright, it's kind of funny how bad I am. My gameplay for Super Circuit is a little bit better because I've played it before, but I don't think you're gonna come away from this video thinking I'm a speedrunner or something. By the way, I do know that you can play all of the Super Mario Kart tracks in Super Circuit, but that would just take Super Mario Kart out of the series completely, and I want to keep it in. So when I go to the Super Circuit section of the video, I'm only going to be playing Super Circuit tracks. So yeah, that's kind of all I have for the intro. Let's get started with Super Mario Kart. So in the intro, I didn't mention that you have to finish top 4 in each race to like move on to the next one in Grand Prix. So there might be a lot of this in the gameplay because I really suck at this game. I'm gonna try to cut it out though, so it doesn't make it into the final cut, but just trust me, this gameplay sucks. Anyway, this game starts out with Mario Circuit 1. Yeah, there's multiple. But this rendition of Mario Circuit is just a wide, flat road. So yeah, it's possible. Like, there's these pipes, but you can just drive around them, so whatever. Donut Plains 1 is even easier to decide it's possible because it's literally just a windy dirt road. Ghost Valley 1 actually isn't just a flat road this time. It has these little jumps, and because of this game's graphics, I don't really know what makes these into actual jumps. I think just for this one, I'll treat it like a little ramp, so for taking a look at this little jump here, I don't think there's enough run-up that you can get to like make it possible. So I'm going to say this one's impossible, but you can disagree with me in the comments. Bowser's Castle 1 has the same problem as the last track, but this time there's a line of 3 jumps. So yeah, this one's definitely impossible. This game has 5 tracks per cup, unlike any other game in the series, which is kind of weird, so we actually have another track coming up. The last track is Mario Circuit 2. Yep, there's 2 in 1 cup. This track actually has a huge jump over another portion of the track. Even if you get enough speed to make it over the other portion of the track, this jump would probably turn your car into a pancake. So yeah, impossible. So yeah, I realized that the special edition for this whole SNES library thing on the Switch has all the cups unlocked already, so I don't need to play Grand Prix. So yeah, for the rest of the Super Mario Kart portion of this video, I'm just gonna use time trial for footage. Not because I was so bad at the game that it took me 30 minutes to get through a single cup even with the rewind feature, but because I wanted some time alone? Anyway, Choco Island 1 is our first visit to Choco Island, as you can tell by the 1 after the name. This track has mud and stuff, but I'm not going to worry about terrain like that for this video because cars get stuck in mud sometimes, and then sometimes they don't get stuck in mud, so I'll just ignore the mud. There are these bumps in the road, but if you just treated them like normal speed bumps, you could totally race on this track in real life. Ghost Valley 2 is literally just a flat track. I don't know what you want me to say. Pretty much same thing goes for Donut Plains 2, other than the gophers that, let's just say, wouldn't stop a car if they were in front of it. Bowser's Castle 2 has an argument for being possible, but with how uncertain I am with these ramps, and the fact that this track gets kind of narrow right here, I think I'm just going to call this one impossible. Mario Circuit 3 rounds out Flower Cup, and this alligator-shaped map is completely flat and wide open, so it's possible. I just spoke like a robot. Just like the start of the last cup, we're going to a new destination, and this time it's Koopa Beach 1. This track has a bunch of water sections, but the water is actually pretty shallow, so I don't think it gets in the way of this one being possible. Outside of that, it doesn't have any other problems, so yeah, this one passes. The next track is Choco Island 2, and this one is just like the first one. There's mud, there's bumps, it's possible. Vanilla Lake 1 is up next, and this track has these ice blocks that get in your way at first, but then disappear when they're touched. Honestly, these little cubes are extremely strong. Like, you can drive full speed into one of these things and it'll just send you right back. If you took a real car into one of these things going that fast, it would kind of just explode. But also, if you drive as slow as possible and tap these little things, they disappear as well. So if you just drove very, very slow with your real life car, you can make it through this track just fine. Just like with all the other Bowser's Castles, Bowser's Castle 3 is impossible because of all of these little jumps. Mario Circuit 4 is the last track here, and I actually have something to talk about. There's this line of pipes that would probably block the road for a normal car, so it looks like this track is actually impossible. But if you just drive around them in the dirt, then you're gonna be completely fine. So it actually passes. Special Cup starts out with another trip to Donut Plains, and this time this one's a little different. Around halfway through the track, there's this broken bridge, and you're supposed to just kind of hop over the gap to avoid falling in the water, but real life cars can't do that. So I'm afraid since my Ford Focus can't swim through a pond, I'm gonna say this one's impossible. Koopa Beach 2 is just like the first one. It has a lot of water sections that you have to drive through. These water sections are a lot slimmer than the last one though. So slim in fact that a real car would probably end up like this if you tried to drive on this track in real life. So this one doesn't pass. Just like the last track, Ghost Valley 3 has some very skinny sections, and I think just like the last track, this one's gonna be impossible. I've covered this Rainbow Road a lot of times already in this series, and in this rendition it has the same result as every other time I've covered it. If you haven't seen the other videos, I guess spoiler, but this track is just completely flat all the way around with no gaps, so this one's possible. Alright, there we go, we have every possible track in Super Mario Kart. I kind of tried to run through that game pretty quick because a lot of the tracks are the same and I don't want to keep repeating myself because that's kind of a bad way to make a video. I'll go over the stats and stuff for this game at the end of the video. How about we move on to the better and more interesting part of the video. So yeah, for this game we're back to playing Grand Prix and we're starting off with Peach Circuit. I like how vibrant and colorful this game looks after going through the last game. No shade to the SNES games, they're just older and look less vibrant. The track itself is just a flat road, just like most of them in the last game. And also just like most of them in the last game, this track is possible in real life. Shy Guy Beach is next here, and this track has these shallow water sections that are similar to the ones in Koopa Beach 1. That's the only thing that's even close to making this one impossible, so this one passes. The third track here is Riverside Park. The new version of this track has this super sick jump through a waterfall, and that isn't here in this track, so maybe you'd think it'd be possible. Sadly though, where this waterfall jump would be, there is a different pretty big jump, but it's just over another section of the track, not through a waterfall. And yeah, obviously that would make this track impossible. Bowser's Castle 1 in this game is actually different than the Bowser's Castle 1 in Super Mario Kart, so I don't really know why they have the same name. But with a creative name like Bowser's Castle 1, I can't blame them for wanting to use it twice. Anyway, this track is very similar to the original. It actually has the same problem that makes it impossible with these consecutive jumps with no run-up. So yeah, this one's impossible. Flower Cup starts out with the 5th Mario Circuit of the video. I guess they just really love that name, huh? Anyway, just like Peach Circuit, this track is completely flat, so this one's possible. Blue Lake is the second track here, and the background of this track is so sick. The first thing you do in this track though is take a right turn into a massive jump over a huge gap, so yeah, this one doesn't pass. Next up is Cheeseland, and I absolutely hate the new version of this track that they made. Just like the new version though, this track has a few sizable jumps that make it impossible. The last track of this cup is Bowser's Castle 2, and this version of it is different again from the SNES one. This track has a bunch of these little hops that would just destroy your suspension over the course of a regular race, so it's pretty obvious that this one's impossible. Luigi Circuit kicks off Lightning Cup, and hey, speaking of lightning, this track is storming. Nothing else about this track would be difficult for a real-life car, and since real-life cars can drive around Seattle, I think this one's pretty possible. Sky Garden has a completely different atmosphere, but it kinda reminds me of the Bowser's Castle maps because of these mini jumps here. Just like I've said before, I don't really know what these ramps are, so I can't pass it because I don't really know what the ramp looks like. Like from the game, it just looks flat, so I'm just gonna call it impossible. Cheap Island is the next track here, and I honestly don't ever remember playing this track, so it was kind of like a new experience. Like, I know it's on tour, but I don't ever remember playing it on tour, and last time I played this game was 10 years ago, so I really don't remember. This track though has just kind of a ton of bridges, and there's nothing wrong with that, so this one passes. Finishing up Lightning Cup is Sunset Wilds, and I just love that the sun actually sets as the race goes on. There's some mud in this one, but just like with Choco Island, this one's possible. Star Cup has the first ice track of the game, and this track is hard. It took me like 9 tries to get in the top 4 when I was getting footage for this, so yeah, you can just give me my pro status now. There are some holes with deep water in them, but you can pretty easily maneuver around all of them, so this one's possible. Ribbon Road is up next, and it's pretty crazy to see the transformation of what this track looks like now. Like, it looks like a completely new track now. I just love how they transformed it. This version of the track does have another one of those jumps that goes over another section of the track. They really love throwing those jumps into every track in this game, it feels like. It makes a lot of the tracks impossible, but honestly, I do think it's kind of cool. Up next is Yoshi Desert, and this one does not follow the rule that I've set in my other videos that I just love all the Yoshi tracks. This one isn't nearly as good as Yoshi Circuit or Yoshi's Island. This track is pretty flat though, so it is possible. Bowser's Castle 3 is probably my favorite Bowser's Castle from this game, probably just because I love Mario Kart Wii so much and, you know, it's in that game. But it is a Bowser's Castle in this game, so you know it has a section like this in it, so it's impossible. Starting out the last cup for this video is Lakeside Park. I don't really mind the meteors falling from the sky in this track because you could just avoid them if you drive careful. There is a jump that goes over a section of the track though, so I'm gonna have to call this one impossible. So maybe I'm not good enough at this game to get through a Grand Prix on Special Cup. So maybe I went back to time trials. Okay, fine, you can take my pro status. Anyway, the second track here is Broken Pier. And while this pier may be broken, it's not broken enough to make this track impossible to drive on, cause it's just a flat track. Bowser's Castle 4 is the 7th Bowser's Castle I've covered in this video. And big surprise, it has these mini jumps and it's impossible. Finally, we're done with Bowser's Castles, and we can move on to the last track of this game, which is just like in every other Mario Kart game, Rainbow Road. I feel like if they retroed this Rainbow Road, it would turn out really cool, so I hope they do that in the next couple of games. But it does have this massive jump in it, so no way we're doing this in real life. So there you have it. Every track that's possible to drive on in both Mario Kart Super Circuit and Super Mario Kart. Both of these games have 20 tracks in them, which is kind of weird because they have a different amount of cups, but whatever. In Super Mario Kart, 11 of them were possible in real life, then in Super Circuit, only 9 of the 20 were possible. It kind of makes sense that as they progress through the games, it would make crazier tracks that would be a little bit more unrealistic. Here's all the stats for each cup in each game. These games are pretty challenging, and honestly I kind of want to grind it out and get better at them, but I also don't really know when I'm going to take that skill out and show anybody, so maybe I won't do that. The next video in this series will be the last one, so that's pretty cool. I was able to make all of these videos. If you want to see the next part, which is Mario Kart Wii, leave a like and subscribe if you're not. If you want to leave your thoughts on this video, just leave them in the comments below, and that's kind of all I have for this video. So yeah, thanks for watching. Okay, bye!